Minutes later, Jamila Hughes and I were inside the morgue at San Francisco's famed Hall of Justice. We had joined the chief medical examiner, Walter Lee, and the dental expert, Dr. Pang. Dr. Alan Pang took his time examining both bodies before he said anything to us. He had already studied photographs of the bite areas that had been taken at the crime scene. He was a small man, completely bald, with very thick black-rimmed glasses. At one point during his examination, I noticed Inspector Hughes give a wink to the ME. I think they found Dr. Pang just a little strange. So did I, but he was very thorough, and obviously serious about the job he had taken on. Okay, I'm ready to talk about the nature of the bites now. He finally turned to us as he made this pronouncement. I understand you're making casts of the bite marks, Walter. Yes, we lifted the marks with fingerprint powder. The cast should be ready in a day or two. We swabbed to gather saliva, of course. Well, good. That's the right approach, I think. I'm ready to state my piece, my educated guess. That's excellent, Alan, Lee said in a soft, very dignified voice. He wore a white coat with the nickname Dragon stitched on one pocket. He was a tall man, probably 6'2" and weighed at least 250. He carried himself with confidence. Dr. Pang is a friend I've used before, Lee told me. He's a veterinary dental expert from the Animal Medical Center in Berkeley. Alan is one of the best in the world, and we're lucky to get him on this case. Well, thank you for your time, Dr. Pang, Inspector Hughes said. This is terrific of you to help. Thank you, I joined in with the hallelujah chorus of gratitude. It's perfectly all right, he said. I'm not exactly sure where to start, other than to say that these two homicides are most interesting to me. The male was severely bitten, and I'm relatively sure the attacker was, well, it was a tiger. The bites on the female were inflicted by two humans. It's as if the humans and the large cat were running together, like they were a pack. Extraordinary. And bizarre, to say the least. A tiger? Jamila was the one to express the disbelief we were all feeling. Are you sure? That doesn't seem possible, Dr. Pang. Alan, Walter Lee said, explain, please. Well, as you know, humans are heterodonts. That is, they have teeth of different sizes and shapes, which serve different functions. Most important would be our canines, which are situated between the lateral incisor and the first premolar on each side of each jaw. The canines are used to tear food. Walter Lee nodded, and Dr. Pang continued. He was speaking solely to the ME at this point. I caught Jamila's eye, and she gave me a wink. I liked that she had a sense of humor. Dr. Pang continued. He seemed to be in his own world. In contrast to humans, some animals are homodonts. Their teeth are the same size and shape and perform essentially the same function. This is not true of large cats, however, especially tigers. The teeth of tigers have been adapted for their feeding habits. Each jaw contains 6 pointed cutting teeth, 2 very sharp recurved canines, and molars that have evolved into cutting blades. Is that important in terms of these murders? Jamila Hughes asked Dr. Pang. I had a version of the same question. The smallish man nodded enthusiastically. Oh, of course, certainly. The jaw of a tiger is extremely strong, able to clamp down hard enough to crush bone. The jaw can only move up and down, not side to side. This means the tiger can only tear and crush food, not chew or gnaw. He demonstrated with his own teeth and jaw. I swallowed hard and found my head shaking back and forth. A tiger was involved in these murders? How could that possibly be? Dr. Pang stopped talking. He reached up and scratched his bald pate rather vigorously. And then he said, What completely baffles me is that someone commanded the tiger away from its prey after it struck, and the tiger obeyed. If that hadn't happened, the prey would have been eaten. Absolutely amazing, the medical examiner said, and gave Dr. Pang a pat on the back. Then he looked at Jamila and me. What's the saying? Catch a tiger if you can? A tiger shouldn't be all that hard to find in San Francisco.
Chapter 10. The large white male tiger was making a shuffing sound, a muted backward whistle. The sucking noise came from deep inside its wide throat. The sound was almost unearthly. Birds took flight from a nearby cypress. Small animals scampered away as fast as they could. The tiger was 8 feet long, muscular, and weighed just over 580 pounds. Under ordinary circumstances, its prey would have been pigs and piglets, deer, antelope, water buffalo. There were no ordinary circumstances in California. There were lots of humans, though. The cat pounced quickly, its lithe, powerful body moving effortlessly. The young blond man didn't even try to resist. The tiger's massive jaws opened wide, then clamped down onto the man's head. The cat's jaws were strong enough to pulverize bone. The man screamed, "Stop! Stop! Stop!" Amazingly, the tiger stopped, just like that, on verbal command. "You win," the blond man laughed and patted the tiger, which released his head. The man then twisted sharply to the left. His movements were almost as quick and effortless as the cat's. Now the young man pounced. He attacked the tiger's vulnerable, creamy white underside, grabbing onto flesh with his teeth. "Gotcha, you big baby. You lose. You're still my love slave." William Alexander stood off in the distance, watching his younger brother with a mixture of curiosity and awe. Michael was a beautiful man-child, incredibly graceful and athletic, strong beyond belief. He wore a black pocket t-shirt and powder blue shorts. He was already 6'3" and 185 pounds. He was flawless. Both of them were, actually. William walked away, staring into the distance at the rich green hills. He loved it out here, the beauty and the solitude, the freedom to do anything he wanted to do. He was very quiet inside, an art that he was still mastering. When he and Michael were small boys, this whole area had been a commune. Their mother and father had been hippies, experimenters, freedom lovers, massive drug takers. They had instructed the boys that the outside world was not only dangerous, but also wrong. Their mother had taught William and Michael that having sex with anyone, even with her, was a good thing, as long as it was consensual. The brothers had slept with their mother and their father and many others in the commune. Their code of personal freedom had turned bad and eventually got them 2 years at a level 4 correctional facility. They had been arrested for possession, but it was aggravated assault that put the brothers behind bars. They were suspected of much more serious crimes, but none could be proved. As William stared off at the foothills, he marveled at the concept of the unbridled mind. Day by day, he left behind the shabby baggage of his past life. Soon, he would have no false morals or ethics or any of the other bullshit inhibitions taught in the civilized world. He was getting closer to the truth. So was Michael. William was 20. Michael was only 17. They had been killing together for 5 years, and they kept getting better and better at it. They were invincible. Immortal. Chapter 11. That night, the two brothers hunted in the town of Mill Valley in Marin County. The area was beautiful, small mountains teeming with strapping, healthy evergreen and eucalyptus trees. The redwood house was maybe 100 yards ahead, up a steep, rocky slope that they climbed with ease. A brick walkway led to an entryway with double wooden doors. "We have to go away for a while," William spoke to Michael without turning around. "We have a mission from the sire. San Francisco was just the start." "That's excellent," Michael said, and he smiled. "I enjoyed what went down there very much. Who are these people, the ones in the big fancy house up there?" William shrugged. "Just pray. They're nobody." Michael began to pout. "Why won't you tell me who they are?" "The sire said not to talk, and not to bring the cat." Michael asked no further questions. His obedience to the sire was complete. The sire told you how to think, feel, and act. The sire was accountable to no one, to no other authority. The sire despised the straight world, as did they. This definitely looked like the straight world up ahead. The large house had all the trappings: gardens tended and watered daily, a small pond filled with koi, several layers of terraces leading up to a large house with more than a dozen rooms for just 2 people. How obnoxious could anyone be? William walked right in the front door, and Michael followed. The foyer had 20-foot ceilings, a ridiculous crystal chandelier, a spiral staircase to heaven. They found the couple in the kitchen, making a late meal, both of them sharing the preparations like the goody-goodies that they were. "Yuppies at play," William said and smiled. "Whoa," the male said, and threw up both of his hands. He was close to 6'4" and well-built. He was working like kitchen help at the vegetable sink. "What the hell do you guys think you're doing? Let's take it outside." "You're the troublemaking lawyer," William said, and pointed at the female. She was early 30s, short blonde hair, high cheekbones, slender, with small breasts. "We came for supper." "I'm a lawyer too," the domineering male said. "I don't think you two were invited. I'm sure of it. Get out." "You hear me? Hey, you assholes, hit the road." "You threatened the sire," William continued to talk to the female, "so he sent us here." "Arthur, I'm going to call the police," the woman finally said. She was upset now, the nubs of her breasts rising and falling against her shirt. She had a small cell phone in her hand, and William wondered if she had pulled it out of her ass. The thought made him smile. He was on her in an instant, and Michael took down the husband almost as easily. The brothers were incredibly fast and strong, and they knew it. They growled loudly, but that was only a scare tactic. "We have money in the house. My God, don't hurt us!" the male shrieked loudly, almost like a woman. "We're not after your obscene money. We have no use for it, and we're not serial killers or anything common like that," William told them. He bit down into the struggling woman's luscious pink neck, and she stopped fighting. Just like that, she was his. She gazed into his eyes, and she swooned. A tear ran down her cheek. William didn't look up again until he had fed. "We're vampires," he finally whispered to the murdered couple.
Chapter 12. On my second day in San Francisco, I worked out of a small cubicle near Jamila Hughes's desk at the Hall of Justice. I attended a couple of her briefings on the Golden Gate Park murders, which were thorough and highly professional. She was impressive. Everything about the murder case was weird and wrong-headed, though. No one had a fix on it yet. No one had a good idea, at least none that I'd heard so far. The only thing we knew for sure was that people were being murdered, in particularly horrible ways. It happens more and more frequently these days. Around noon, I got a call on my cell phone. "Just checking in," the mastermind said. "How is San Francisco, Alex? Lovely city? Will you leave your heart there? Do you think it's a good place to die? Or how about Inspector Hughes? Do you like her? She's very pretty, isn't she? Just your type. Are you going to fuck Jamila? Better hurry then. Tempus fugit." He hung up. I went back to work, lost myself for a couple of hours, began to make some minor progress. Around 4 o'clock, I was staring out at the start of rush hour, San Francisco style. Pretty mild, actually, while I talked to Kyle Craig. He was still at Quantico, but he was definitely heavily involved in the case. Kyle was in a position to choose the cases he became personally connected with, and he told me this was going to be one of them. We'd be working together again. I looked forward to it. I caught a movement out the corner of my eye and saw Jamila approaching my desk. She had her leather jacket half on and was struggling into the second sleeve. "Going somewhere?" "Hold on, Kyle," I said into the receiver. "We have to go," she said, "to San Luis Obispo. They're going to exhume a body. I think it's related." I told Kyle that I had to leave right away. He wished me happy hunting. Jamila and I took the elevator down to the parking garage beneath the Hall of Justice. The more I saw of her work, the more I was impressed. Not just by her savvy, but by her enthusiasm for the job. A lot of detectives lose that after a couple of years. She obviously hadn't. "Are you going to fuck Jamila? Better hurry then." "Are you always this pumped up?" I asked her once we were inside her blue Saab and heading out toward 101. "Yeah, pretty much," she said. "I like the work. It's tough but interesting. Honest most of the time. I could do without the violence. In this case in particular, the hangings give me the creeps.